I know the songs. It's cool. First album, which is available for purchase in finer establishments. This
one goes out to the girlfriends. Thanks for putting up with us.
Yeah.
And that means you, Mark Russell.
Welcome again.
Excellent. We're good.
Ready?
Yep.
And you told me you're looking for the same thing.
Hi, Dwight. You're not bright, are you? There's a lot of bright lights on here. As a guy who has drunkenly played on this stage a whole lot of times, I can only say I am so happy to be back in the Stetson. Make sure to tip hard and drink lots.
James, may I please have a little bit more vocal?
Buy me a beer.
Thank you very much.
Starving musician, pulling up pants.
We can also use a little more acoustic guitar, stage left. Stage left monitor.
Maybe a better bass player too. Exactly how it goes.
Wish it could have been one more dance now. Wish the telephone would just ring.
wonderful wedding song.
Any people getting married soon? Hey, you should come have a dance.
Yeah.
This is a song to dance to. Grab somebody to dance with. Color on the horizon just keeps changing. Where levitating in my hand. Never been a vision like you before. Oh, this moment forever. Close my eyes and sway with me forever. Close my eyes and stay with me forever. Need change of scenery. May a couple more days. Maybe you'll see some new friends of mine. Maybe share the ride. Close my eyes and stay with me forever. Close my eyes and stay with me forever. People were there dancing, playing with fire sticks. Rain's been raining for so many days. Rich tales up, you know the river is higher. Dance with you and give you a heart.
I have the power.
Wait for it.
In my pocket, your pretty fingers, flashing my eyes. Water's coming down on my windscreen. Please better be my wife. Close my eyes and sway with me forever. Close my eyes and stay with me forever. Close my eyes and stay with me forever. Close my eyes and stay with me forever.
All right, let's get this party started. Hey folks, how's everyone doing? I'm doing all right. Got a brand new Soggy Moccasins t-shirt, which I already ripped the sleeves off of because that's what children do. When I was a kid, I used to like rip holes in my jeans and write on them and stuff. And now I'm an adult and not much has changed. Just it's sleeves, not holes in my jeans. I'm just gonna make sure I'm making noises because I often yeah, I'm making noises. Good. I hate it when I forget that. Yeah, things are going well. Life is all right. I was at a gig last night, which was super fun. I got to see Soggy Moccasins, obviously, Before I Fall or Before the Fall. I can't remember which is which. And my OG buddies, blanking on names right now. His last words. Sorry. Yeah, super good buddies of mine. I can't even remember their name. But they actually are super good buddies of mine. We booked them for many, many years in gigs. Most notably, we had them play, well, pretty much anytime we had the opportunity, we got them to play. And they played some cool shows with us. And they had been quiet for a long time, what with all the COVIDing. So it was nice to see them, nice to hear the new stuff. They were releasing an album, and just it was awesome. So I bought a bunch of shirts, and it was a good time. Soggy Moccasins definitely one of my favorites of the night. There was 3 bands, so they were all good, but I love me some Soggy Moccasins. They're from Morley, and just fun, good metal. I thoroughly enjoyed. So if you're hanging out on the Bandcamps, check them out. I think they're on Bandcamp. I think that's where yeah. Anyways, got my Civil War mug. Everything's gonna be okay. Drinking the coffee. So yeah, I was up very late. Had some adult flavored beverages, and I'm feeling like it's very, very early in the morning. When it's really not. It's afternoon. If only by minutes. So I'm we're gonna do some stuff. We're gonna attack. I want to mention, of course, the humiliation ticker. I always do my weekly humiliations. This week, the good karaoke song, which you get for free, will be, what fucking song did I say? Shit. See, this is the thing. Go out for a night of carousing and your brain stops working. My good song, oh yeah, it was Let's Lynch the Landlord, which seems fitting, and we'll be talking about the eviction crisis. And then the bad karaoke song, if I raise a whopping $10 in tips or what have you, I will be doing, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. I have to pause for a moment to give my child cigarettes, because why would you think to ask before this happened? Oh, he needs several. I'm so glad to have these moments with you. I appreciate that, not just that we share this, but that we get to share this. I think that's beautiful. You're sorry? I love you. I'll sell you on the internet, but I love you. All right. Parenting 101. When your kids act up, just give them cigarettes. I see someone on the YouTube chat. That would be my kiddo, Abby. Hi, Abby. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. I do recommend, if you're going to watch, you should watch from Twitch, just because I will see the chat there easier in the chat screen right there. But, you do you. You do whatever you want. I'm old. I can't tell you how to social media, not even remotely. Ironically enough, yesterday, Abby and I had plans, and then Abby wasn't feeling great. And so Abby canceled the plans, which is fine, 100% fine. But my old ass dadness, I went to reply and typed out yeah, don't worry about it. We're cool. I understand. Everything's good. And then just didn't hit send because I'm too old to get social media. So that's awesome. Speaking of old, I'm almost old. I turn old again in just a few, I don't know, I think it's 2 weeks or something. I don't know. It's less than that. I don't know. Sometime soon, I'm turning old. I will be 48 years old. I am steadily approaching the point where I will be 50, and that is interesting. Because I don't feel like a 50-year-old. I don't feel like a 48 or a 47-year-old. I feel like a kind of dumb 25-year-old, and I don't have any gray in my hair, which is pretty awesome. That will probably change overnight, by my birthday, it'll just be like whoosh, white, and I'll be old and haggard, and I'll get all the old man wrinkles and stuff. Kitty, how you doing? I'll be 39 on the 17th. Any advice for my last year of my 30s? The only advice I would give is just enjoy the fuck out of them. All of the stuff in our heads about birthdays, I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but none of it matters, right? When I was 39, I was cool. I had fun. I went to gigs. I did all the things that 39-year-olds aren't supposed to do, and I had fun. And I'm sure that you will be doing that too, Kitty. So yeah, that would be my advice. Is just keep on keeping on, and just give her, man. Goddamn. So we're gonna get into stuff. The first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about Trump getting booed, but partly because it's funny when Trump gets booed, but there's more to it than that. So let's quickly watch a video of Trump getting booed, because I enjoy that greatly. I'm going to push the fade button and then find the fucking thing. There it is. So.
Tens of thousands of people in Alabama gathering for Donald Trump's rally as the state struggles with a surge of new coronavirus.
You'll notice this is MSNBC, which means it's fake news, which means that I am simping to Jeff Bezos so that we can promote a lie that Trump is not the president, when in fact we all know clearly he is the president.
Coronavirus cases. Trump facing a wave of boos, in fact, by his own supporters when trying to tell the crowd to get vaccinated.
In your freedoms, I do. Bree, you got to do what you have to do. But I recommend taking the vaccine.
I love that. Just we'll back that up a second. But like, you got to have your freedoms. You do. But like, what a thing. What a thing.
But I recommend taking the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But no, that's okay. That's all
And
right.
you just hear the crowd. They're like, yeah, I'm a free. What did you say, motherfucker? God damn it, I'm booing you.
You got your freedoms.
You got him.
But I happen to take the vaccine.
Nah.
If it doesn't work, you'll be the first to know. But you do have your freedoms. You have to maintain that. You have to maintain that. And you got to get your kids back to school.
To me, that's all we need to say. I don't want to go into the breakdown from MSNBC on it. I did find that entirely interesting. Largely not because of the fact that Trump got booed, which was always, it's fun as fuck when you see him, especially Trump getting booed, because he is such a creature of the public eye and such a populist and all that stuff. When he gets booed, it's rare because he is so used to just feeding the people the same old bullshit that they want to hear. And so I enjoyed that. But I think it's interesting also because I feel like Trump and that whole wave of alt-right, neocon, all of these different groups that are pushing all these different narratives, I feel like Trump created a monster with his populist approach to them. And like Frankenstein's monster, it turned on him. It hasn't all the way turned on him because, they're not capable of that. But I found it really fascinating to see him now standing there, and all he said was like, yeah, you've got your freedoms, but get the vaccine. Like I did. I think it's a good idea. I think you should do it too. And people were like, goddamn communist sympathizer, CCP, enemy of the goddamn state. I mean, I'll vote for you, but goddamn, boy. That is surreal, right? This is a guy who has just stood there and babbled QAnon bullshit for years of his presidency, and he says the one thing that they didn't want to hear, and boy, oh boy, did he hear about that. Boo. So that was awesome. I enjoy very much. I have a little sweet tooth for the Schadenfreude, and that was delicious. It's a funny time right now because of how really, really segmented public opinion is and polarized public opinion is. People just want their echo chamber, and I get it. I'm just as guilty as everybody else. I'm streaming to, like 3 people who regularly watch, who are awesome, who I love, who are friends of mine in real life, and my socialist rhetoric is not going to make me a wealthy person. But that whole idea of like, us and them, the corporate mentality is huge right now. And it's the whole populist thing is fanning those flames and creating movements usually for very disingenuous purposes. Trump started all of this stuff about, hating on immigrants and hating on brown people. And it was a very transparent, like, he's don't get me wrong, he's a racist, but he's that clever kind of racist that's like, oh, I can use this as a way to do what I want and get away with it. Well, okay, I'm gonna do that. That sounds like fun, and I'll become president out of it. Like, that's gruesome, and yet it worked. We had 4 years of him as president, and there is the risk that we could get 4 more still, even though he was impeached twice. the whole thing is just surreal to me. But yeah, it's a funny world. It's a funny world, and we giggle a lot. I love that meme. That's like punk band or punk guy. The world's garbage, and I hate it. The goth guy, like, the world's awful, but there's a beauty in it. And then the emo guy, like, the world's awful, and I want to cry about it. And the ska guy, the world's awful. I have a trumpet. I have a trumpet, and I enjoy playing my trumpet. On the 3rd, which will be my birthday celebration, I will not be playing my trumpet because it's a different band than that, but I will be playing some ska, so that will be fun. And ska is the music of happiness, and happiness is the secret of moisture, and moisture is the secret of beauty. I don't know, Zoolander moment there. Either way, it'll be fun. If you want to come down to the border crossing, come on down. It'll be good. I get to play bass for the first time with Dr. James Reddy, which is going to be awesome because I joined that band filling in for a phenomenal bass player, and it was a steep learning curve, but I got there, and then all of a sudden COVID struck, and I wasn't able to do things. And in the interim of COVID being there, the drummer had a baby, so even when there were gigs again, there was no Dr. James Reddy gig available because we didn't have a drummer. So now that everything is done, not done, obviously wave 4, baby, but hopefully we make it to the 3rd, which is next weekend, and I get to play my bass finally with Dr. James Reddy. So that'll be awesome. I want to talk about OnlyFans. I found myself not jumping into that conversation early on, simply because OnlyFans isn't a thing that I really give much of a crap about. And that's not a sass on the people who use OnlyFans. It's that, like, I'm not a part of the OnlyFans world. I don't go on OnlyFans for purposes of seeing the sex things. But I 100% support the idea of that as a platform. And I didn't know what to say about it at the time when all of the information got released that they were changing up their platform. Let me be clear, that was a shitty move. OnlyFans, in my mind, is almost like Serb. It was absolutely necessary at the start of COVID. A lot of people kept the lights on in times of great uncertainty with OnlyFans. That's facts. And it was like a meme that everyone was giggling about. Oh, OnlyFans, only it's just me eating spaghetti and playing accordion and yucca yucca. But, honestly, a lot of people at the start of this pandemic, a lot of women were understandably terrified. They were not able to work. There was no clear path of what's going to happen here. And they chose to use OnlyFans as a service to try and keep some money coming in. And I had a lot of friends who did this. And I'm a weirdo in this regard, not weirdo in the like way you think I'm a weirdo, but I'm a weirdo in like several friends of mine posted that they were going to be doing OnlyFans stuff, and I basically messaged them and I was like, I don't want to join your OnlyFans because that's not, I don't really want to see you naked, but I would like to, kick you a few dollars to help you, get through and stuff. And honestly, most people were like, no, I couldn't possibly, which I always hate because, like, if I'm offering to give someone a couple bucks, it's because I care enough to offer to give somebody a couple bucks and because I can afford to give somebody a couple bucks. But, I get it. It's, sometimes people are a little less comfortable taking money, especially like, if we're not super close, cool. And I could also imagine a world where people would see that message and interpret it incorrectly and be like, oh, Jim doesn't want to be on my OnlyFans, but he wants to send me money when I'm talking about like naked pictures. What the fuck is Jim up to? And I get that too. But it was legitimately like, hey, I don't want to see you naked, but I do want to help. And there were some people I was able to help out, and that was awesome. And there were a lot of more people that were like, no, I'm not into it. And I'm like, that's cool too. You don't have to take my money. But yeah, OnlyFans really was important for people getting through that shit. And I say women, I'm you know, obviously the things in my universe, as a cishet, white, straight dude, white doesn't really come into it, but you know, I saw a lot of girls posting that they were going to have OnlyFans. I'm assuming there's probably plenty of guys that had OnlyFans, but my brain goes to women because that's what I saw a lot of. Really what it boils down to is it is a platform that was built on the idea of sex work, which, for the record, sex work is real work. Sex work on work from home is real work from home. So I found it really frustrating when I read about the fact that they were like, oh, we're going to do some different corporate things now. We're going to change our vibe and really go for a different group of content providers. Because, you know, you built your system on the backs of sex workers, and now you're like, oh, that's not good. We don't do that anymore. We're just not gonna. No, we're gonna do other stuff. As a musician, I will never have an OnlyFans. I say that. I guarantee you, in 30 years, I will have some OnlyFans thing for some old-timey project I'm running, because that'll be the way of the world, and then I'll be a giant hypocrite. But I'm okay with that because, you know, I'm a hypocrite. Abby, if you're still watching, it said that you sent me an attachment and in Facebook, and then there's nothing there. So I don't know. I think you were trying to send me something good, and then I didn't get it. So just putting that out there. Maybe you could resend. Anyways, I looked into what was gonna go. It was a ska meme. Oh, thank you, Abby. It's good to have you in the Twitch chat. Yeah. Anyways, so I looked into the details behind the whole OnlyFans thing, and because I kind of suspected, and I was right, that it was a matter of, like, you know, the banks are puritanical and they don't want us to have the lewd content, and they won't pay for, or they won't provide services. So for us to have payment services, we kind of have to step away from this. I get that, but you know what? Don't build your fucking empire on the backs of sex workers and then be like, oh, sorry, sex workers, it's nothing personal, but we're just totally gonna, you know, screw you over. Anytime people are deplatformed in that way, it sucks. It sucks for them, right? You know, the obvious parallel would be the people who get you know, the right wingers getting kicked off of Twitch for shouting Nazi epithets, and I do see them as different. I was watching a debate on the whole topic, and someone brought up, and I thought it was an interesting point. They brought up I think it was Shark Zero brought up, you know, hey, all you right wingers should be on our side on this one because it's deplatforming. And the right wingers shot back, and in this one I agree with them. They were like, dude, you can't even. You guys were upset, or you laughed about the fact that right-wing people are getting deplatformed, and then when sex workers get deplatformed, you're like, this is a freedom issue. I do agree that's a little bit disingenuous. You know, that's I'm not gonna deny that one. But you know, at the end of the day, they are different situations. In my mind, getting kicked off a platform for violating the terms of service is, you know, it sucks, but you did the thing. Getting kicked off a platform because they changed their terms of service and changed it in a way to intentionally kick you off their platform, that's a little bit shitty. And I think that OnlyFans is kind of a joke. It all comes from this ridiculous Puritan thing that we have going on, and I don't understand that. I've never got why we care so much about sex as a society. You know, you hear about, like, in Europe, there's you know, women will be breastfeeding on TV as part of the news, and like, okay, no one cares. Right on, that's awesome. That would never happen here. And if it did happen here, like, the South would burn because people are so scared of boobs, which is funny because, like, I got boobs. No one's scared of me. The thing that, you know, we came to America to you know, escape all of the bullshit of Europe, and apparently what we escaped was, like, having a healthy attitude towards human sexuality. I feel like maybe that was a poor thing to skip out on, but you know, that's just me. Deep down in the cockles of my heart, I don't give a fuck if people have sex. I don't give a fuck. I like it when I have sex. You know, I enjoy that quite a bit. But regular human beings having sex consensually, all right, that's fine. It doesn't even have to be something I'm interested in. The fact is, it's happening. And when a site like OnlyFans exists as a vehicle for people to better reach markets, or however you want to phrase it, with their sexual content, like, okay, we live in a world where that's a viable thing. Who cares? It's not my business. The only way it would be my business is if I was either a subscriber, or if I was you know, unwittingly the person that they were posting content of. That would be where I could be like, hey, that's my willy. I don't want that on the internet. Other than that, none of my fucking business. But the banks, who, you know, also fund terrorism, they're taking this hard line of like, well, you know, it's okay for us to fund the terrorists and you know, all that sort of stuff, and support all kinds of foreign wars, but that girl had her boobas out, and I'm just not okay with that. You need to fuck right off. Banks are like easily the evilest of all evils of Western society, and when they're like getting all uppity and angry about the fact that there are people who have sex and things, like, okay, maybe you're being a dink. Maybe you should stop being a dink, because that's just silly. That's my 2 cents on the subject. I think that banks are way worse than sex workers. I don't think sex work is bad. And I don't understand why we give fuck number one about what someone does consensually, either in the privacy of their own home or via the internet. Like, okay, there are people who do all kinds of stuff that I don't like, that I would think is far more egregious than having sexual relations. You know, for example, there are people out there who feel that it's perfectly justified to be a racist. I'm not into that. I'm not a fan of the racisms. But I don't get the ability to stop them from doing that in their own home. I do get that they don't get to, you know, use every platform they want to spray their racisms. But if there was like, you know, I guess the better analogy would be to say, like, if you had something like Stormfront, which was I don't think it's around anymore at all, but it was like the white Nazi superhuman power goth shit forum board / news site where all the angry white supremacist kids would go to spray their hate. And if they suddenly were like, you know what, banks aren't supporting us anymore, so we're just going to take a moment and reassess, and what we've decided is we're going to have no white supremacist content. Yeah, the people of Stormfront probably would not have been okay with that, and probably would have been very angry. And, you know, again, fuck those people. But in reality, you know, they do have an argument, because this was a platform built specifically for them to be their hateful selves. And now it's being taken away because of somebody else's bullshit, the bank's bullshit. In that sort of a scenario, I'd 100% support it, because fuck white supremacists. But OnlyFans is, in my mind, like, you built this city on rock and roll, and now you want to only have classical music. You don't get to have it both ways. It would be like if Spotify was like, you know what, we're only going to do smooth jazz now. sorry. All of our content creators should switch to smooth jazz. Otherwise, you're just not going to get access on our site anymore. I think that's a silly thing. I don't know. I'm talking in circles. It's what I do. It's what I do. Especially when I'm a little haggard. Haggard. That was a callback to back when I was in the band The Regurgitones. We did a couple of shows where we dressed up like I was a faith healer, and my name was Professor Ted Hagrid, because there was the Professor Ted Haggard, who was the guy who was the head of the Southern Evangelicals, and they busted him on a meth binge with a male prostitute. But I believe that he prayed the gay away, so he's okay now. So, Pastor Ted. But yeah, we did a couple shows where we gave people Holy Communion with like Wonder Bread and boxed wine. It was a lot of fun. So I said Haggard, and that made me think of that. Whatever. I want to take a moment, and I want to do something that I haven't done yet. There is a new leader of the Green Party in the U.S. or in Canada, sorry. And let me see if I can find some details. Essentially, what I want to do is I want to figure out who this is, because there's a bit of a controversy right now involving this person, and I want to make sure that I understand what's going on. So we're going to use our Google powers. I'm just going to type, it's Enemy Paul, and we'll just see what comes up. So there's a Wikipedia, so let's start there. Enemy Paul, year older than me, so even older than me. That's impressive. I didn't know the number systems went that high. A Canadian politician, activist, and lawyer who has served as leader of the Green Party of Canada since October 3rd, 2020. The first Black Canadian and the first Jewish woman to be elected leader of a federal party in Canada. Paul was the founder and executive director of the Canadian Centre for Political Leadership from 2001 to 2005, and has worked in civic engagement and international affairs positions, including political affairs in Canada's mission to the European Union and in the office of the prosecutor at the International Criminal Court. So that's pretty badass credentials, I gotta say. She is co-founder of the Barcelona International Public Policy Hub. She was a candidate in the 2019 Canadian federal election. She won the 2020 Green Party leadership to replace Elizabeth May. Ran in the 2020 Toronto Centre federal by-election, which was called following the resignation of Bill Morneau. She was defeated by Liberal nominee Marcy Len, making her the only federal party leader who is not an MP, but whose party has representation in the House of Commons. Paul's decided to run in Toronto Centre again in the 2021 Canadian federal election. In 2021, June 2021, controversy emerged over Paul's leadership after the floor crossing of Green MP Jenica Atwin. So I do not know much about Enemy, and I hope I'm saying Enemy's name correctly. If I'm not, deep apologies. Trying to learn stuff here, including how to say your name properly. So I don't want to go like too deep into this sort of stuff, but so we have the leader. Let's look at where is Enemy Paul parents from? Well, that's some good Englishing. Let's see. Let's go to Enemy Paul's actual website. It's time to be daring. Donate today, volunteer with us, get a sign. I will preface this all with saying that I've never been a supporter of the Green Party, because the Green Party has always struck me as a very right-leaning economic party with a lot of progressive statements about the environment. And that doesn't sit well with me, because I think I do like the progressive statements, but I don't think we're going to ever get there with right-leaning fiscal policies. And that's why I'm curious to know more about if Enemy is in keeping with that kind of perspective or not. Do we want to watch that? Yeah, let's watch the campaign launch. I don't know how long this is. If it's long, we'll stop. Oh, it's a minute.
The thing that I believe that the backroom operators who cooked up this election have gotten wrong is that try as they might with their polling, try as they might with their calculations, they underestimate the desire of people for change. They underestimate the desire of people for change that this pandemic has provoked. And we are ready to strike out in a new direction. Our country is suffering. It needs leadership. It needs leadership that offers a positive, progressive, and compelling vision about how we will repair the social and economic damage wrought by the pandemic. How we are going to secure our future prosperity. How we are going to tackle the climate crisis and build a more resilient society that leaves us better protected. That's where we come in.
I like that. I like that. And honestly, like, nothing that was said there is in any way a concern to me. I firmly believe that all of the things, particularly, let's face it, the climate crisis is a thing, and we need to get our shit together when it comes to that. And there's too much inaction, too much currying favor to energy companies, all sorts of stuff. There's like nothing on this website. It's literally just that. Am I missing something? Daughter of immigrants who arrived in Canada from the Caribbean in the 1960s. When my mother and grandmother arrived, they took jobs as living domestics. My mother loves her adopted home and was determined that her family embrace everything Canada has to offer. I was engaged with public policy from an early age. My mom still has a photo of me at 12 years old in my Ontario Legislature Pages uniform, and I can still remember the rallies, protests, and strikes that she took me to. I went on to complete a Master's of Public Affairs at Princeton University, a Bachelor of Laws at the University of Ottawa, and I'm called to the bar in Ontario. Over the years, I've been honored to be selected as an inaugural Action Canada Fellow, an Echoing Green Fellow, and member of the Recruitment of Policy Leaders Program, members of the University of Ottawa Commons Law Honor Society, and as a recipient of the Harry Jerome Award. I don't know what any of those things mean. I don't need to. It clearly says this is a person who knows public policy. Worked for abroad as a director for a leading conflict prevention NGO in Brussels, as an advisor to the International Criminal Court in The Hague, and as a political officer in Canada's mission to the European Union. That's pretty badass stuff. I don't see a whole lot of like what the Green Platform is, and maybe that's just because they haven't done that yet. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's just type in Green Party Platform 2021. There's a link right there. Okay. I don't want to meet enemy. I don't want to nominate myself. Climate action, the time is now. Support the climate plan today. Notice how there's no link to a climate plan. It's just that you can donate. Take action. Housing is a human right. Maybe this will be a link to a thing that we can. Declare a national housing affordability and homelessness emergency and establish a national moratorium on evictions and residential arrears assistance. Homelessness and housing affordability are national emergencies, which the pandemic has only made worse. It's time for Parliament to officially recognize these twin emergencies and to take action. This is something that I have been talking quite a bit about, and I do definitely agree that this has to be like a federally mandated, something's got to change. I'm actually going to talk about that probably in the second hour of our conversation today. But it's good to see that they're having similar conversations. Hopefully that's something that is becoming a actual talked about thing in at the federal level, because this is one of those times where there has to be some systemic change. There was some statistic I heard earlier today that like for every housed person, there are 6 houses. I don't know if that's it's literally just a stat that I heard, so I can't say that that's true. But the idea of housing being unaffordable when we have a giant amount of it that is empty seems pretty sus. I said sus. I'm such a Gen Z. Not that there's anything wrong with being Gen Z. It's just that clearly I am not. Okay, so we did see some information there. Let's take a look at the climate action. I'm going to click the donate button. I hope it's not going to take me to just a donate page. Yeah, it's a donate page. Okay. Yes, I want to leave the site. Fuck off. Alright. And the humanitarian crisis is the worst record for COVID-19 deaths in long-term care among rich countries. That seems like a pretty strange and unique thing. Like, I don't know enough about this to say, oh, that's not a humanitarian crisis, or it is, or whatever, but COVID-19 deaths in long-term care among rich countries. That seems like a very small focus group to pay attention to. I'm not saying it's a bad one, or that we shouldn't be doing better. It seems like if that's the second thing that you're putting on your, like, having actual information about on your site, I feel like that's kind of a cart before the horse thing. And I think that's a bit creepy, because the people who are in long-term care are ultimately primarily elderly and the sick. And while the sick don't mean much to politicians, the elderly sure like to vote. And anytime I see this kind of stuff, I'm always like, are you just currying favor with the old timers that you know are going to come out and vote, and so you're trying to buy their votes? I don't like that. Save the last of Canada's old growth forest. This is a huge thing in my opinion, and I 100% agree. BC's majestic, and that's spelt wrong, and I hate that I have to point that out, but I have to point that out. Majestic is with a J. BC's majestic old growth is in a crisis. There are a few of these ancient trees left. BC logging has been very problematic for a very long time, and old growth logging is completely yucky. And the indigenous in BC have been acting as land protectors, which is essentially what they do in all of the communities they live in. The indigenous are very active and very vocal about protecting the environment. Sadly, us honkies don't listen very well, and so we're just like, but there's money to be made there. How about we make all the money, and then we can build a giant safe out of wood that we smashed and killed. I don't know. It's a thing. I do think that this needs to be. It's ultimately a provincial issue, but it needs to be a federal issue to, have some direction. So there's not a whole lot here that I'm seeing about what the party actually believes. So that sucks. I was kind of hoping for more, because as I've said, I'm not a fan of the Green Party simply because I have always, every time I've looked at their platforms, it's always been like, old growth forests are important, we got to do that. Everything is important, let's look after the environment, let's get drinking water to people, let's do the right things. But also, here's our fiscal plan, which is all about conservatism. And I do not like that. So I hope that I'm wrong, and that Enemy maybe is a representation of a change in that party. But again, I can't really tell anything about what they're pushing for. That kind of frustrates me. I don't suppose there's any kind of let's just see if we can find Green Canada or Green Party. Green Canada is just going to be all about weed. Green Party of Canada Platform 2021. You can take a look and see. Candidate recruitment plan. Gonna be Paul live on something. Why don't we watch this? This will be interesting. says that the platform is on the way shortly. Let's give it a whirl.
All right, good morning and welcome back. Election 44 in full swing as candidates offer up some big promises and they are looking for your vote. BT has invited all of our federal party leaders to join us live here on the show to explain why they should be elected and how they plan to lead us out of this pandemic. Of course, that's at top of mind with a number of other issues. So joining me now is Annamie Paul, leader of the Green Party of Canada. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Melanie.
Thank you for joining. Let's dive right in. It was about 10 months ago that you were elected party leader, and within that time, a lot has happened. There has also been a bit of instability within the party. So for you, as you are on the campaign trail, how do you put that all aside and move forward to get those votes?
Well, it's very easy to do because the issues on people's minds in Toronto Centre, where I'm running, for instance, and around the country, are not on those things. They're on the fourth wave of the pandemic, on how they're going to get their kids back to school, on the forest fires that have evacuated communities, on the drought, on affordability, and I could go on. And so nothing concentrates your mind more on what is important than being on the campaign trail. We shouldn't be in this election, but certainly people have a lot of issues that they want to share with me.
Okay, so let's talk about that platform. Right now we are waiting on a full platform from the Green Party. The Conservatives have released a full detailed one. Liberals were waiting on, and sort of a list of promises from the NDP. So where do you stand with releasing your full platform?
We will be releasing a full platform. As you said, parties have different schedules for that. Ours will be released absolutely. In the meantime, what we are doing is introducing people in Canada to various planks in our platform. We're hoping that they can focus at least a little bit, given how many other distractions there are at this time. I think dumping a 100-page document on them is probably not the way to go if we want them to be able to absorb our policies.
I love the white girl dance in the background there. That's awesome. We're gonna rewatch that.
The other distractions there are at this time.
Right in there.
Dumping a 100-page document on them is probably not the way to go if we want them to be able to absorb
doing the
our
achy
policies.
breaky.
Okay, so all of this to come. Let's get to some of the topics now. Housing has become a big one on the campaign trail for a number of the leaders. You have pledged to work with other parties should you be successful. I'm going to bring in a viewer tweet because we did put this out to our viewers. This one coming to us from Jennifer saying, how does the Green Party plan on tackling the housing crisis and affordable housing for all in the GTA? Now, to our national viewers, GTA being the Greater Toronto Area and specifically where you are campaigning. So what is your answer to that?
Well, yesterday I did a press conference outside of a co-op housing community in Toronto Centre in Winchester Park. And I made the point that, you know, we have been pushing and pushing during the session of Parliament, that we just closed to declare two twin crises, an affordability crisis for housing and also a homelessness crisis. And anyone across the country knows that housing is becoming more and more out of reach for people, whether it's rental or buying your first home. We know that the pandemic has made it worse. And so we had asked for that. We had asked for the commodification and speculation to be taken out of housing. We're calling for more deeply affordable units to be built, and for the federal government to get back into the business of building co-op housing, social housing, nonprofit housing, as we used to do, because it's what's needed now.
Looking at your...
I like that, but I also don't like that. I find it really strange that our answer to this is we need to build more affordable houses. Because if we've got all this space that we're using that is empty, why are we not repurposing that space? Why are we not making that space affordable? Why are we not doing things that are necessary in order to better utilize what we already have? I was talking with a friend the other day, and I was like, we were talking about homelessness and stuff. And homelessness is absolutely a crisis, and it is a huge, huge problem that I think we need to tackle. And I was like, how many homeless people are there in Calgary? Obviously, neither of us knew the answer to that. It wasn't about, well, there's 17 and therefore, but there's a number of homeless people in Calgary. We have entire towers that are empty. Not just because, you know, COVID means that we're not all working in the office and everything. I mean, like, literally, there are towers that are largely or completely empty because the economy hasn't been where it needs to be. Why can't we go to the people that own that building and say, hey, we're buying it off of you, fuckers, and we're going to convert all of these office spaces into quality housing for people that we will make available for free. You know, why not? Why is that such an impossible thing? Building houses, all we're doing is just continuing to spread and make our cities bigger when they shouldn't be. So I see a lot of parties going, you know, we need to build more affordable housing. And I'm like, no, we just need to have more affordable housing. We don't need to build it. Maybe we need to repatriate it. But we need to not try to solve this problem by paying developers to build cheap quality houses, because that doesn't work. It totally doesn't work. You want to, I've talked about this before. You want to have a decent housing solution. You take a tower downtown and you redefine some of it into residential spaces that can be cheaply available, and you make sure that on the main couple of floors you actually have reasonable services aimed at people. So you have like on-site mental health facilities. You have on-site healthcare facilities. You have on-site, like, whatever the fuck you need, it should be there, including things like daycare. Because we forget that not all homeless people are just old grumpy men. Sometimes it's families, and having this as a space for people to be able to sort of get their feet back under them, get whatever help they need, and not be held back by the conditions that they're stuck in. Well, that just seems like a good plan. Anyways, that's me pissing and moaning.
Your campaign schedule, of course, it's concentrated in Toronto for those who have been paying attention, and you are looking to win a seat in Toronto. A viewer tweet coming to us from Kyle saying, do you plan to campaign outside of Toronto? Looking at the schedules of all the other leaders, green events have been planned in Toronto so far, and the environment and climate change is a topic that many Canadians would like to discuss with the Green Party leader. Indeed, there is a budget at play as well here. So can you talk a little bit about this and where you will be going in the weeks ahead?
I think that this election cycle, given that it's happening in the fourth wave of a pandemic and a climate emergency, is really an opportunity for us to rethink what campaigning looks like. We learned a lot during the pandemic about how we can connect with people across the country, even without being physically there. And there's still many risks to being physically with people at this time. The idea that flying in a jumbo jet, as all the other parties are doing, from one location to another to stand in an airport hangar and make an announcement, the idea that that's connecting with people is a bit silly, frankly. And so we're going to be reaching out to people wherever we are through new technologies, virtual means. And if there are some opportunities to travel, I will do that. But we've got to rethink what modern campaigning looks like. And the Green Party is all about innovation.
Let's look forward, if we can, Ms. Paul, because right now, at top of mind for everyone is this pandemic. How do we get out of it? What is the Green Party's solution in getting out of it? And that includes the post-pandemic economic recovery.
Well, that's exactly what we should have been going back to Parliament to talk about right now. We can see that COVID infection rates are spiking all across the country. We've heard already from international partners that they're talking about the need for boosters because even with the second dose, vaccines are starting to wear off in other countries that were a bit further ahead than us. So what are we doing here in an election under those circumstances? I don't know. We should be talking about how we get out of this pandemic and how we defeat it once and for all here and everywhere. Part of the recovery, when we get to that, because we're still not in recovery mode yet, is talking about the exciting prospect of a green recovery. I want to join the United States and the European Union in planning a recovery that is based around renewable energy, that is based around building the infrastructure we're going to need to get down to zero emissions. because we can see all across the country right now the impact that climate change is having. We don't want it to get worse, and we have this tremendous economic opportunity at the same time if we do both things together.
Okay, that is Federal Green Party leader Annamie Paul joining us live here on Breakfast Television. We thank you for your time.
I was trying to figure out what BT stood for. I was like, I hope it's not like some like super conservative. It's Breakfast Television. Breakfast Television, right on. All right, I'm going to take a quick, roughly 5 to 7 minute pause. I'm gonna do so while you get to listen to the great Canadian Tommy Douglas speaking. And this is, I believe, when he stepped aside as leader of the NDP. And I'll have my crappy music playing in the background. So that should be interesting. And if it's not interesting, it should be, you know, something. Either way, here we go. I'm just going to press play there and then click on that.
New Democrats, mes chers amis.
That'll work.
All my life, I've wished that it were possible that I could attend my own funeral and listen to the eulogies that would be made on my behalf. But I knew that this would be extremely difficult since I'd have to be dead. Laurie Lapierre and his committee have made it possible for me to listen to the eulogy in my wildest dreams. Did I expect to have eulogies delivered by such talented and eloquent spokesmen? I would like to thank Pierre Burton, this noted author, and outstanding radio personality. And to say that I know of no one in Canada from whom I would appreciate this tribute more than from this man. I want to assure you that my wife, Irma, and myself are deeply touched by these tributes, that we are profoundly grateful for this occasion. I am glad that you included Irma, because as someone has said, behind every successful man, there's a surprised mother-in-law. I have been fortunate that in all my political career, I've had someone who has helped me and encouraged me. And tonight, I'm glad that you are paying tribute to her. I want to say to Grant Notley, that I am not saying goodbye either. I propose to stay in the House of Commons until the next election. Our supporters in Nanaimo, Couch, and the islands have done me the great honor of nominating me to contest the next federal election. And if God gives me strength and the electorate gives me votes, I'll be here fighting at the same old stand for the things in which you and I believe. We have come tonight to thank you, to thank the hundreds of thousands of people you represent who have made anything we have done possible. I think of the men and women who 35 years ago and more dreamed the impossible dream. Men and women who lived beyond the lean horizon of their years, who believed devoutly that it was possible to have a more humane and a more just society, and who gave of their time and their money and their energy to begin building it. The men and women who traveled in all kinds of weather and in all kinds of vehicles, who went from schoolhouse to schoolhouse, organizing, raising money, who canvassed from door to door, who passed out literature, who manned the polls, who drove cars on election day. You who are here and thousands whom you represent. These are the men and women to whom we should be profoundly grateful. And I feel tonight a great flow of gratitude to them. And I'm filled with wonder that I, raised in a working class home on the wrong side of the tracks in the city of Winnipeg, should have been given the opportunity by the working people of this country to make a contribution to the public life of Canada, which I hope will long endure. If I were asked to sum up for the people of Canada, for the New Democratic Party, what I have learned from more than a third of a century in public life, I would sum it up by saying to them that it is possible in this country of ours to build a society in which there will be full employment, in which there will be a higher standard of living, in which there will be an improved quality of life, while at the same time maintaining a reasonable stability in the cost of living. We don't have to have 750,000 unemployed. We don't have to choose between unemployment and inflation. My message to you is that we don't have to do this. My message to you is that we have in Canada the resources, the technical know-how, and the industrious people who could make this a great land.
And that's what it's all about, Tommy. Making this a great country. I think that the whole Make America Great Again thing was a terrible, terrible take. Don't make America great again. Make it great, because it was never the best it could be, and or make it greater. I got some hair. Holy crap! Things are happening. I have returned. Just as I was getting up, I noticed that the quality was glitchy, so I think I fixed that. If I didn't, well, I'm only one man. I see I have a follow, and I can't see what that was. Capitalist resource raping. Oh, hey, that's Jay. How you doing, Jay? It's good to see you, buddy. I hope you're well, my friend. Long time no see. What was I gonna do? I wanted to quickly just see who did the follow there. That would be, according to this, I want to see... Oh, it was Che. Thanks for following, Che. It's good to have you here, buddy. I love you. It's been far too long. I was secretly hoping that I would see you last night at the gig, but I did not. That's not Che Bad. That's just, I was sad because I love you and I haven't seen you in a very long time, my friend. It was me. Yeah, it was you. It was you. Yeah, you. All right, so I'm gonna. I guess I'll quickly mention a couple things. First off, there's as always the weekly humiliations. At the end of the broadcast, I will for sure be singing karaoke. I'll bring up the ticker just so I can make sure everyone knows what I'm talking about here. So this is the humiliation ticker. I like to humiliate myself. And the whole thing is me. Yeah, I'm surprised you hadn't followed already either, Jay. So the whole thing is just me sort of encouraging. Well, not even encouraging. I like to humiliate myself. If people decide that they want to give me money to do stuff, then cool. And I will further humiliate myself. So at our free, we have the good karaoke. And the good karaoke is today I'm going to be singing Let's Lynch the Landlord by the Dead Kennedys. If I get a total of $10 in tips, there, I'm trying to work my finger in space there. If I get $10 in tip, I will do the bad karaoke song, which would be Meatloaf's I Would Do Anything for Love, but I won't do that. At $20 as karaoke, so karaoke meaning that chat gets to pick what song I sing, and the last time that happened, I ended up singing Nickelback. So, fuck. $35 is trumpet-okie, which is where I will play my trumpet along to a song. Originally, I was going to do Mbop by Hanson, but it's kind of been like an ongoing, like, it never happens. So I'm kind of willing to just, chat can pick a song, and I'll play trumpet over top of it to prove that I'm just that skilled as a trumpeter. I'm not. And then at $50 is hell to pay, where chat gets to pick whatever I do to humiliate myself. It doesn't have to be karaoke, it doesn't have to be music related. It's just whatever. Anyways, so that's a thing that'll happen. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly is I think it might be Wednesday instead of Tuesday, but I have announced that Tuesday I will be having my darling friend Taylor McNally on to discuss Taylor's current situation. Taylor, I did a video a few weeks ago about the violent arrest of Taylor, and Jack, who was also part of that arrest. They were protesting against police violence, so naturally the police were like, "Oh, we can fuck you up for that," and literally violently arrested 2 people for protesting. So yay, that's awesome. And I want to make sure that we get a chance to hear from Taylor and understand. From what I understand, she can't talk about everything because of there's ongoing lawsuit stuff. So it'll be whatever she can talk about, but it should be really interesting. It should be really awesome. And Taylor is always just a phenomenal person to have a conversation with. So I'm really excited about that. You had to leave work early today. Why is that, Jay? Was it? Are you all right? That's. I hope you're good. You said you were good, so I'm going to believe you're good. Anyways, that's the stuff I wanted to bring up in terms of what's new and improved and on the horizon and stuff. I want to quickly. I was just going through before I took my little pause there. I was going through the Green Party of Canada stuff, looking at the new leader. They don't have a platform published yet, so that's a thing. But we do have an election called, and I wanted to quickly just talk about that because this election is stupid. It is grandstanding at the highest of possible levels by by the Liberals, but more importantly, this is an end around. This is quarterback sneak. This is that call where the football team plays and does a silly, and they go, yeah, we're totally, we started the play and no one knew we were ready, but we're ready and we're running with the ball, and oh fuck it's just shitty. Essentially, the Liberal Party, the first time that they won a majority government, and that allowed them to accomplish fucking nothing, because that's ultimately what the Liberal Party will do. Fucking nothing. The second election, they did not get the majority government. They got a minority government. And what that means is they had to work with other parties in order to pass legislation or whatever. And the party most likely to be worked with by them would be the NDP party, who have been much a thorn in their side in making them accidentally do things that are good. And we all know just how badly the liberals hate doing good. So all of the progressive things that we have gotten in the last few years have been because of the need to work with the NDP and the NDP getting to push for better progressive policies. That Justin Trudeau hates. He doesn't want to be progressive. He wants to just, be comfortable. So he called an election because he felt that this was the time when he could reestablish his majority government and basically just, raise a middle finger in salute to all of the good progress that's happening. Yay, we love that. So instead, we have this election. Canadian elections happen on the spur of the moment, which is why the Green Party doesn't have a platform. Not a big surprise. This election was literally hey, we're going to do an election. We got till the end of next month. Which I like about the Canadian system, because you don't have the ridiculousness of a 2-year election cycle, which is just impossible. In fact, I don't think the Americans ever are not in an election cycle. Between the midterm elections and just the fact that every single candidate takes 2 years to run on every, you're constantly getting bombarded with election costs and election everything, and it's just shit. So I do prefer the Canadian system, but I don't like that Trudeau literally was hey, I can finally stop caring about progressive issues if I win this time, so let's do that. So I don't personally think the NDP is all that progressive. I think that they are the best that we have in terms of progress, and the most likely to actually take on and do some things that need to get done. But I don't have any faith that, they're, we'll elect them and just propel this country into the 22nd century of awesomeness. I don't buy that. I think that at the end of the day, people don't want change. They certainly don't want progress. They want to just sort of inch a little bit further along and be satisfied. And I get that. I just don't do it. I want real change. I want radical change. And that's not what we're going to see. Anyways, that was the thing I wanted to talk about, was just to make sure people understand that this whole calling of an election is all about stopping reliance on the NDP. And so I hope that what Canadians do is vote NDP. You can be a right-wing super chud all you want, and in which case you're going to vote for one of the two right-wing super chud parties. But for those of us that are not right-wing super chuds, whether you are a middle-of-the-road centrist type, or a liberal, or a socialist, or whatever, my hope is that you will see through this and go, I actually want progress. Who is it that's been progressive? Because CERB is a good example. CERB was a phenomenal program that saved a lot of Canadian bacon, saved a lot of our bacon. It did not affect me because my career was untouched by the whole pandemic. Untouched in I could still work the same amount of hours. Things were not, I was not hurt by this. It sucked to work from home. It sucked trying to, have meetings, and, I've got kids living with me, and they're 17 and 18, but they're normal 17 and 18-year-old kids. They want to do things like make occasional noises, or, close the door loudly in their bedroom without thinking about it. These are not horrible things to do, but when daddy's in a meeting, and my job is a lot of meetings, so it sucked. But CERB, anyways, I'm way off topic. CERB, the whole thing with CERB was, for those that were affected, they gave this monthly, like $2,000 or whatever the number was, sort of a no questions asked. If you need it, you've got it. Like a short-term universal basic income. And the Liberals are all very, very pat themselves on the backish about it. But really, it wasn't their policy. It was the policy of the NDP that the NDP was able to push for. I'm voting NDP knowing they won't win my riding. Doesn't matter because my vote will get them more funding. I hope that that's true. I never really understand that argument. Like, people used to say, you know, if you're going to vote for anyone, you should vote Green because Green needs more funding and stuff. And again, as I said earlier, I'm not a supporter of the Green Party because I've always found their fiscal policies to be very conservative. And I don't think that you can enact their social policies with a conservative fiscal agenda. That just seems to me like a silly thing. So I've bounced between voting NDP and Liberal. In the last election, I voted Liberal, and I did it with through gritted teeth because I did not want to show any support to Justin Trudeau. But the candidate in my riding was actually a really phenomenal, or at least the impression I had was they were a very phenomenal young mind who, you know, I wanted to show some support to. And I never did meet the NDP person in my riding, which I believe was because they, you know, had a huge riding to get through and not everyone gets to talk to them. But I found nothing valuable online. I found nothing. I didn't even know their name except for the fact that I saw signs occasionally. So this election, I will definitely be voting NDP. I believe that is the direction that best goes with my life and my philosophy. And I don't care whether or not my riding actually could go to I think typically we've elected Liberals, and if people are smart, maybe we will get an NDP person in. But Alberta is such a hard sell right now because there's so many chuds here, so many chuds. I tried the tactical voting, but this year I just won't give Liberals, Conservatives, Light any more support. Yeah, man, I when I grew up, like, my parents were proud Liberals, and I was like, I'm super okay with the Liberal Party. I want them to you know, be the change. And my dad had always said, you know, the NDP party, you know, it's a great party and it's an important party, but, you know, they're just not ready. And frankly, that's a silly statement. The Liberals have, every time there has been Liberal government in Canada in my life, it has always been a letdown in terms of actual real progress. And mired in the same scandals that the Conservatives have. And they really are. They're a neo-lib, neocon kind of like that ineffectual middle road. And I really agree with you. Tactical voting is you know, it's a cool idea, but really what it boils down to is I just want to make sure that my voice is heard. Me voting for a Liberal person in the last election, I feel bad about because I didn't want to support the Liberal person. I wanted to support the NDP person. And if my vote had not counted because I didn't vote for the winner, well, at least my voice was heard. And so I think that I did myself a disservice. So this time, I will definitely be voting NDP. Unless the person that they run in my neighborhood is like a white supremacist or a child eater or something, which I just don't feel is very likely. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. The whole election thing, like I say, like this is an important moment, and it doesn't feel like one. And it's important because the goal of the Liberals is to re-cement their power and ensure that they don't have to put the effort in to keep getting the sweet, sweet big bucks. And fuck that. Fuck that hard. All right, I want to talk about this eviction moratorium in the States and the affordable housing crisis that we have in Canada and all of this kind of stuff. And I put a bunch of thought in. I actually kind of want to do this as a whole separate thing where I'm going to like use my business analyst skills and show diagrams and stuff. But I'm not sure if I'm going to get there or not. But I am going to talk about it today, and hopefully in some depth. I put a bit of thought in. I like to think about stuff, and So at the end of the day, the eviction crisis was ultimately highlighted by COVID, but it is not a product of COVID, contrary to what a lot of people seem to think. The crisis that we're in is that shit's too expensive. And landlords are garbage. And all of that stuff. Which is why I'll be singing "Let's Lynch the Landlord" later tonight, today in the podcast. But the problem that we have is that rents are unaffordable, housing prices are unaffordable. People, like, I am Gen X. I am a late stage Gen X or Atari Wave Gen X, whatever you want to call it. Sorry, Nintendo Wave Gen X. Atari Wave would be the earlier wave of Gen X. I'm old, is what I'm saying, and I will never be able to afford to buy a house, largely because of the choices that I made in my life, and getting married young, having a large family, and then getting divorced and supporting that family. These are decisions I made. I understand that, but the idea of like home ownership is just not a thing that I think I'll ever be able to do. When I look at my children, it's not a thing that they'll be able to do for very different reasons, unless things change. And the reasons are because the cost of a house is fucking outrageous. The cost of a house is impossible. Not impossible, but you get what I'm saying. And a lot of that has to do with how we treat housing. Personally, and this is a hot socialist take, I think housing is a human right. And I think we need to approach housing as a human right. I believe we need to approach housing in the sense that every single person has to have a house. I believe personally that every single person should have food, clothing, and shelter. And shelter meaning a house. Food and clothing, I think, are pretty obvious. And we commodify those as well, but there's not a rash of people who are walking around naked because they can't afford clothing anymore. There is a rash of people who are walking around not sleeping in a house because that's not something that they can do. The eviction crisis that came out of COVID highlighted all of this because essentially when people were unable to work, particularly in the States where they didn't have programs like CERB, they got like the here's $20 and y'all have a good time getting through this pandemic. I'm sure $20 is going to help. Those people who were affected by not being able to go to work could not pay their rent, and the government saw that would be a problem and tried to do halfway certain almost things ish to be able to fix that. I know that they've allocated funds for exactly this, and that those funds at the state level are just not getting used, or they're getting used sort of too little too late. And they had to put a rule that said you can't evict people over non-payment of rent for now, and that they keep sort of punting that back farther and further. But at the end of the day, eventually, if they don't get ahead of this, they're going to have a shitload of evictions. And these are people who were working, but aren't working now, or are working less, or are now getting back to work, and are faced with, well, yeah, but for the last year, my rent was, $1,000 a month times 12 months, so I only owe $12,000 to my landlord. Let me get right on that. Here's that $20 that the government gave me. Now all I need is $11,980. I'm going to start an OnlyFans. I can't start an OnlyFans even. Fuck. God damn it. So the first thing I want to talk about is like, who are the players? There's obvious and there's less obvious. In this scenario, obviously the first and foremost is tenants. These are the regular human beings like you and me. I am a tenant. And we're the ones that pay the rent, or in this case, have not been able to pay the rent. We're the end user of the system where we have a need for a house. And again, it is a basic human need, and in my mind, a basic human right. Then we have landlords. There's a lot of different kinds of landlords, right? So there's the little landlords who maybe like a buddy of mine bought a house before all of this happened, and he could not afford the house on his own, so he had tenants that were renting his basement, and basically the rent was such that it would help him cover the cost of owning the house outright. In some cases, like my landlord, who is a darling of a woman, and I do not say that with sarcasm, I genuinely think she's fantastic. She is very, very old, I believe. I don't know how old she is, but I believe she's, in her 70s, 80s kind of area, and owns a few small properties, and they basically offset the cost of her life. She's not living, from what I understand, a lavish life. It's literally just, this is the thing that keeps the lights on. So my landlord, I don't have a problem with. I understand. I don't like landlording as a concept, but my landlord is not the monster of all monsters, nor is the friend of mine that I explained who is renting out his basement to people and needs that money in order to pay his bills. Then we have the larger landlords, which are, companies or people that own a bunch of properties and are doing this as their business. And groups like Main Street and stuff that own multiple properties and rent them out, and basically that their whole purpose in existing is they are a realty rental company. And then we've got a huge amount of property that is owned by investment portfolios, or whatever the appropriate term is, where hedge funds and things have bought up houses, seeing that houses are consistently going up in value. Part of the reason houses are consistently going up in value, by the way, is because people keep buying them and making them not on the market. So we have this fake supply-demand curve, right? Our supply-demand curve, if we have empty houses because people, we don't have enough people in them, then we have a large supply. And our supply currently is far greater than the demand, even though we have people who are homeless. If we were to house them in spaces, we would still have plenty of empty houses that are rental properties. So it's not a supply demand, like there's no sensible reality here. When supply is high and demand is low, cost is low. When supply is low and demand is high, cost is high. This is how economy works. But this is not how our system is working. It doesn't make any sense to me. So that frustrates me, because real human people are the ones that are getting the shaft out of this, and that's bizarre. Then we have like foreign investors, particularly BC has a huge amount of property that is owned by not Canada. And I'm not going to pull some, God damn it, those people, they should stay in their own goddamn. I don't mean that at all. I mean that a lot of people, foreign investment has bought up a large amount of the housing in, like in Vancouver. And I think all the way through the Okanagan and stuff, there's a huge amount of people who have bought houses, whether it's for rental or for summer homes or whatever. But they do factor into the equation. Then, so that's like the landlord group. Then we've got the banks. The banks, their whole purpose in existing is lending money and receiving interest. So mortgages are loans. Mortgages are somebody wants to borrow money to buy a house. The house is collateral. And the bank gives them the money for the house. And then birds chirp in the morning and the world is a glorious and wonderful place. Huzzah. And last but not least is the government. The government is essentially the mom of the situation, who watches over things and goes, we got to make sure this is fair. We've got to do things differently. We've got rules to protect people. We've got rules to protect companies, blah, 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 blah. So those are our players. In terms of their needs, they all kind of have the same thing. The tenants need a place to live. That's why they're in this conversation in the first place. The landlords have a place to live, and they need to have the money to pay for that place to live. The banks are the ones that lend and get payments on that money. And then the government is the one who's supposed to make sure that it's all fairsies. Where we're at, though, is this cost of houses thing has created such a problem that, you know, if you look at the cost of a house and you do the breakdown of, you know, what would amortizing that over a 10-year mortgage or 20-year mortgage or whatever, if you do that math and you use reasonable numbers in terms of, you know, valid interest rates, you know, based on current time, and let's say a 10% down payment, it's very expensive to buy a house, such that it's not a reasonable portion of most people's income to pay the mortgage cost. That is where the problem lies. It used to be when someone was renting out a house, you know, they're renting it out, let's just use bullshit numbers, they're renting it out for $1,000, their total mortgage payment and property tax and stuff probably works out to like $900 a month. They charge $1,000, they make $100 a month, and it's a non-thing. It covers repairs or whatever. Fine. But when you're in a situation where your payment is like $2,600 a month or $3,000 a month or $5,000 a month, how are you going to make that up with rent? You're not. So the ability to like renegotiate the deal is not there. The people who own houses are in a tough spot. The people who are trying to rent those houses are in a tough spot. The average cost is going up, and it's going up unsustainably in a way that's just going to cause a lot of people a lot of hurt. So what are the options? Well, we can do nothing. And if we do nothing, we know that we're going to have mass evictions. Particularly in the US, where they didn't have things like CERB to protect people, there will be mass evictions. But also in Canada, because there are still plenty of people who will be in that position. And again, this isn't just pandemic. This is the cost of this house that I live in going up in value, and therefore the cost to use this space going up in value. So mass evictions would happen. Then when we have mass evictions, we still have a problem. The landlords don't have people paying them money. This is the thing that landlords don't seem to fucking understand, is that if they are not getting money from a tenant, that means that there's no money coming in. That means they're not paying their mortgage, which means they're going to have to go bankrupt on their loan. Their secured, lovely home mortgage is going to go away, which is bad for landlords. And then the banks will end up writing off a bunch of debt, but the banks will also own a bunch of houses, and they'll do just fine. And the government will end up having to like bail out banks somehow. Somehow all of this, if we do nothing, will result in the government giving banks a bunch of money, which is fucking funny. So that's the do nothing option. I don't think that's a good option. We can extend the moratorium on evictions. That doesn't solve the problem. It delays it, and it will keep people in their houses longer. It will keep the landlords owning their houses longer, presumably. But it's not solving the problem. It's not getting ahead of anything, and it's not going to make the stress and the threat of homelessness go away. Adding another, let's just say 5 months. Let's say we add 5 months to the eviction moratorium. All that means is 5 more months where people still have this gigantic debt that they can't afford to pay off. And so 5 months from now, they're suddenly homeless. Didn't solve a goddamn thing. I think there's other options in that, right? So we can absolve or have the government pay those rental costs. By absolve, I mean, if you're a renter and you owe $10,000, let's say, in rent since the start of the pandemic, the government could just absolve you of that debt and say, no, you don't owe that money, and the landlord just has to deal with it. That removes the threat to tenants. It doesn't remove the stress to landlords. So then the government could say, okay, well, we'll pay that rental debt, which is what they're trying to do in the US, is have these large buckets of money to say, yeah, we'll cover all these costs, and it will make sense. Oh, I see Che said something, and I'm not to insure the person paying for it. I don't know what you mean, my friend. Not to insure the person paying for it. Anyway, so the government could then go, well, we're also going to make sure that the banks can't act on this rental debt created situation, so that the landlords don't lose their houses. That's kind of what these buckets of money are for, is to give the tenants the money so that they can cover this rent, and then the landlord gets that money, they can cover their back owed mortgage payments, and then everybody wins. Except it doesn't, again, solve that bigger problem of we have got a housing problem that is caused by too much money for houses. That's why they introduced mortgage insurance. Some reason that comment didn't come up. That's why they introduced mortgage insurance. Some reason that comment didn't come up. It didn't come up for me because I don't know anything about mortgage insurance. And so I can't speak to that. If you know stuff, I'm more than happy to hear about it. Feel free to put it in the chat. Or if you want, you can hop on my Discord and we can just bring you on and we can have a conversation about it. Either way. Because I don't know anything about mortgage insurance. I'm assuming just by the name that what it means is you can pay for an insurance plan that will ensure that your mortgage, if you are not getting income from your renters, that gets paid by the insurance company, and then the bank doesn't, take your house away. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about. It's probably within limits of 6 months or 2 months or whatever. That the bank would the insurance company would step in. Just trying to say that they introduced the mortgage insurance to protect the banks only. Oh, that definitely sounds like something that we would do. We definitely want to keep the banks safe because the banks have a right to your money. That shit frustrates me because banks are just corporations. They're wealthy corporations and they're important to the overall maintenance of a society, but they aren't so important that they're more important than humans, who are the tenants or the landowners or whatever. Mortgage insurance, I don't know anything about it, but anything that's designed to protect the banks at the expense of tenants is missing the point. And if I get what you're talking about, essentially what they can do is they can just boot people out and then their insurance will cover their costs until they get a new person in. The problem with that logic is that they don't want to rent to somebody who's been kicked out for not paying their rent. So all of these people who are suddenly evicted are just not people that you would ever rent to, because they're the bums who didn't pay their rent. And why would, what if that happens again? I'm not taking that risk. I'm not having you live in my house. And the end result will be you don't have tenants. You have a huge homeless population, but you don't have tenants in your space. And you lose your space because you can't, nothing will last forever. And the bank gets the building. Yay, bank. So that's a solution. And I think the idea of having the government pay that money is an immediate resolution to the problem, but it's not a long-term resolution to the very real problem of shit's too expensive. And that's where we get into the angry socialist, Jim. I'm going to use the word repatriation again. I have the same vibe whenever the government bails out a company. You want to bail out a company? Fine. Own the company then, right? If you're giving a company $1.7 billion, you should be getting $1.7 billion worth of ownership of that company, and therefore getting something for your money. I'm looking at the whole housing thing and going, you know what? Let's do the same thing. If housing is a human right instead of a lucrative market, then we get the government to directly pay banks for their missed income during the pandemic in exchange for compensatory ownership of the banks. So the banks don't just get money for nothing. Or the government buys out the landlords. And gives, takes on that role and makes sure that the people, the houses are available for the people. That would go hand in hand with a permanent banning of evictions for the inability to pay. I think that's a thing that needs to happen. I think that if rent is too much money, sorry, you can't kick someone out for that. Back in, in my distortion days, we had, we paid our rent. We often paid it late, but we always ended up catching it all up. And we eventually got the boot because we had some bad months, and the company changed the locks on us. End result of that is that space is still empty, so that is now a net loss for the people who own that space. And I hope to fuck, and I know that they're not, but I hope to fuck that they're sitting in a boardroom going, that was fucking stupid. We should not do that again. It's better to get some money than no money. So we should work with people and maybe reassess when they're saying they're having trouble paying their rent every time. Maybe we have to lower that rent. The idea that you have property as an investment is fine as long as you respect the fact that investments aren't guaranteed, motherfucker. Your investment doesn't mean that you get to forever have free, everything's going to be okay. Investments come with risk. And sometimes you can lose money on an investment. And if that means that your rent has to go down so that your tenant can stay, but that down is below your mortgage payment, tough shit. You've made a poor investment and are paying the price for that poor investment. Fuck your face. So yeah, ban the idea of evictions for inability to pay. I'm not against evictions. Obviously, if you own, I don't like the idea of landlords, but if you own a house and you are letting somebody live in it and they are smashing it, yeah, fuck. Fine. If they're screwing around and they're doing things that are like actively going to damage the thing that you own, we live in capitalism still. I understand. I'm not a fan of that, but whatever. But just because you can't afford to pay doesn't mean you should be kicked out and made homeless or made to incur all of the cost of moving and finding a new place and all the stress and all the bullshit that goes with that. Then what I would add is that those public-owned properties that the government has purchased from landlords are rented as a percentage of income with a cap, obviously, so that if you make nothing, you pay nothing in rent. If you make below the poverty line, you pay next to nothing in rent. If you make, I make decent money, and so I would have to pay rent, and I'm fine with that. And that the idea of tying that rent to a percentage of my income is a good thing. That's actually how a lot of countries deal with rental costs. And I think that's just smart. You always hear that, you're never supposed to have your regular housing costs be more than 1/3 of your income. Well, fat fucking chance in this economy. Fat fucking chance. And 1/3 of your income, that's a shit ton. That's a large chunk of money for anybody. Whether that's the number that they set or not, but you cap it and you say, this property, your maximum rent that you're going to pay is, let's say, $5,000 a month as a bullshit number. And you come in and this is the house that you're in and you are not making anywhere near that. Well, you're not paying $5,000 a month. If you're making the Googleplex of dollars every day, well, yeah, you can get away with, there's a cap, $5,000. That's fine. This isn't about destroying you financially. This is just about making sure that people can afford to pay what they pay. I'm not opposed to a cap. And then that leaves the whole question of what happens to the landlords. So the existing small landlords, the people who like my landlord or like my friend that I mentioned earlier, I like the idea, if they are losing their investment property, then we grant them a temporary monthly stipend to make that adjustment and to make that transition. So, every month you get a certain amount of money from the government that will, in the intent of it is to help you either, in the case of my friend that owns the house that he can't quite afford, maybe he needs to move into a place that he can afford. And maybe that monthly stipend is just to help him cover those moving costs and the costs of all of this shit. but that person walks away with less, the property they own, they don't own anymore, which sucks. But they also couldn't afford it, and they didn't really own it. The bank owned it, so they kind of don't lose out in that regard. And they have the opportunity to transition and to easily transition into a new thing. For those people, the smaller landlords, like mine, who is surviving off of this, I think you look at that and you say, okay, well, if you are of a reasonable working age, we'll do the temporary stipend thing. In the case of like my landlord clearly designed a life that included home ownership for the purposes of sustaining them through their retirement years. And I have no problem saying, okay, you know what, you're not in a working age. We'll just give you that same stipend, but we'll just make sure that we're covering your costs all the way till you die. Not covering all of your costs, but like if you were bringing in, let's just say after your mortgage payment, you were making an extra $500 a month on top of your pension. Fine, we'll just give you $500 a month. Congratulations, now we own your homes, and that's that. The larger landlord companies, they have the choice. They can sell their properties to the government, or they can continue to operate their companies, and they're only owning the things that they own. Fine, but you have to be able to compete. And if I can rent a house from government-owned housing system for, let's say, 10% of my income, or I can rent a house from private company for what will wind up being a third of my income, I know where I'm going to go. It's sad but true. Landlord companies, the large ones that have made a career out of this, maybe it's time for you guys to think about like becoming farmers or something, or just fucking off and dying. I have no love in my heart for large corporations in general. I certainly have no love in my heart for large landlord corporations, and that's just that. When it comes to the hedge funds and the foreign investors, fuck them. Government just we can just go like, no, that's ours now. We sold it to you, but we don't care. All of these things. This is all I'm talking about a fiction, because no one will do this, and there's probably a million downsides that I haven't even considered. This was literally things I was thinking while taking a poop today. But yeah, if you're a foreign investor or you're a hedge fund that are buying up properties to intentionally inflate the cost of those properties to make them good investments for the people that are part of your hedge fund, or just to have an extra space of property that you really enjoy, fine. The government will just go, yeah, we're taking this house. We'll give you fair market value for it, but we're taking it back. You don't get it. You just don't get it. And that, in my mind, that will take away this rampant inflation that we've seen in terms of housing costs. And the government needs to step in and say, you can't do that. We can't sustainably just consistently build to solve our problems. We have to make better use of the space that we have. And where the cost of a house is outlandish, we have to step in and fix that, because that is not sustainable for the country. The idea that there is a generation or two generations of kids that probably won't be able to experience home ownership in any significant chunk of their population, just because things are too expensive, that's us failing them. And I'm not good with that. I feel like we need to do better. So yeah, that's my large half socialist bullshit answer to the eviction crisis. I don't know if it'll work, but I certainly hope that somebody at some point hears it and goes, yeah, you know what, we have to do better. We have to make sure that people are protected, because you know what, if it's a basic human need, it should be a basic human right. That's it. The exception being sex, because every time I say that, thank you, Che, not too shabby. Every time I say that, and it's like, food, clothing, shelter, sex, those are your 4 basic rights. They should be human rights. 4 basic needs. They should be human rights. But you can't just like have the human right for sex. You can't just walk around going like, excuse me, miss, I'd like to have the sex with you. And when she's like, no, I'm not interested. And I specifically am using nerdy males and women saying no, because that's the world we live in. That not that like nerds don't get love. What I mean is the terrible men who are like, but it's my right, I have a human right to your vagine. Those people can probably choke on it. Legalize sex work. Yeah, I talked about OnlyFans at the beginning of my stream, and yeah, legalize sex work. It should be legal. It should be protected. It should be safe. It should be fun for not the whole family, because you probably don't want to be taking your kids to the brothel. Well, maybe you would. Maybe they have a good good childcare system. That's fine. Legalize sex work. Fuck yeah. I genuinely don't understand why we are in a place in our society where we're like, oh, sex works. That's what the dirty ladies of the evening with their skin tight clothing and their vile, evil, consumptive nature. Like, fuck off. We're past that. Can we please just be like, okay, you know what? Have sex. Have the ability to buy sex. I don't see that as every other industry. You're allowed to outsource. If I have a messy house, which I do, I have the ability to hire someone to come and clean it for me. Don't see a problem with that. Don't see the problem with that at all. If I don't have someone who is regularly touching my willy parts, and I can find someone to do so, and I can pay them money, and that's the agreement that we have, so who fucking cares? How is that affecting anybody? Unless I'm being shitty about it and hurting that person or exploiting that person or whatever. But if we're talking about sex work in a protected, stable kind of a system, I don't see a problem with it. All right, I'm going to take another break. I will leave you again with the words of Tommy Douglas. I'll just continue. No, I can't continue because that was like almost done. Let's find another Tommy Douglas speech if we can. The 1968 Canadian federal election debate. I think this will be interesting. This would be Pierre Elliott Trudeau, the father of Justin Trudeau, Robert Stanfield, and Tommy Douglas, and Réal Caout. I probably said that entirely wrong. But yeah, we'll play this audio background along with my super, super sexy MIDI Reaper bullshit that I did. And I'll be back in just a few minutes. Where are we here?
The National Debate, live and in color from Confederation Hall in the West Block of the Parliament Buildings in Ottawa. This is a joint production of the CBC and CTV networks and Radio-Canada.
Bonsoir, ici Pierre Nadeau.
And I'm Charles Templeton. On June 25th, Canadians go to the polls to elect a government. To assist the electorate in their understanding of the issues before the nation, the CTV and CBC networks have combined to present the National Debate. The participants are the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Pierre Trudeau, leader of the Liberal Party, the Honourable Robert Stanfield, leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, Mr. T.C. Douglas, leader of the New Democratic Party, and Mr. Réal Caout, leader of the Ralliement Créditiste. Now, the rules of the debate are simple and have been agreed to by all concerned. Each speaker will make an opening statement of 3 minutes duration. This will be followed by a series of questions unknown to the participants by our panel of broadcast journalists. The speaker to whom a question has put has 2 minutes for his reply. His opponents have 1.5 minutes for comment or rebuttal. On each speaker's desk is a small light. It'll turn on when he has 30 seconds to go. When his time has expired, the light will blink on and off. After approximately 80 minutes, Mr. Caout will join the debate under the rules just outlined. Pierre?
Now let me outline the rule in French. Les participants ont accepté les règles de ce débat. Elles sont simples. En premier lieu et à tour de rôle, les chefs de parti se livreront à un énoncé de 3 minutes. Puis, ils répondront aux questions de nos journalistes, questions qui n'ont pas été préalablement soumises. Le candidat interrogé a 2 minutes pour répondre. Sa réponse est ensuite commentée en 1 minute 30 par chacun de ses adversaires. Le voyant lumineux que vous voyez sur le bureau des chefs de parti s'allumera 30 secondes avant la fin d'une intervention. Le clignotement indiquera que le temps imparti est écoulé. Environ 80 minutes après le début de l'émission, M. Cowett sera invité à se joindre au débat. Charles?
Well, now for the opening statements, and first, Mr. Trudeau.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Je suis très heureux d'être ici ce soir.
Happy to be with
Durant
you here
toute cette
this
campagne
evening.
électorale,
Throughout this election campaign, I have been saying that I believed in dialogue and debate. I do believe that the government of a democratic country must be essentially based on intelligence and reasoning. I believe that in an election campaign we have been trying to exchange ideas with the people. We feel that a good government can exist only if it is supported by the people.
there might have been some risks for a Prime Minister to accept this type of debate. I rather think that the risk would exist if we didn't accept debate. Because a democracy is essentially an exchange of ideas between those who govern and those who are governed. And a good government can only exist if there is this kind of exchange of ideas, this kind of confrontation between those who aspire to lead the people. I believe in this Canada, I believe in this very exciting and growing country of ours. I know there are problems. I know these problems affect especially the poor, those who don't have enough houses, the old people who can't make ends meet, those who don't find enough jobs. This is why we have governments and a democracy, in order that the people be able to express these problems, in order that those who govern them be able to discuss the solutions. And it's in this sense that we can have a good government, if we share not only the problems but the hopes for the future. And this is what we want to do in this election, and this is what we hope we will be doing in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Stanfield. Your opening statement, please.
At the outset, I would like to mention briefly Senator Robert Kennedy, whom the world mourns. Il vit très bien les conflits qui affligent la société américaine.
He knew the conflicts which afflicted American society, and he made an appeal to the conscience of his country and not its prejudices. He was a rich man, but a man who was really concerned with the poor and the oppressed. He always tried to bring out what was good in America, not what was less good. He was not satisfied with simple slogans. He searched solutions for the problems of his country. And in the spirit of this tragic loss, conscious of our own society here, we must recognize that our prime responsibility is to Canadian democracy, that we owe it.
Party leaders would work to...
All right. Stop the music. A fine way to spend some time. So I'm back. It was interesting. I was listening to that speech as I was outside doing my thing. And the whole thing with Bobby Kennedy is actually kind of topical because yesterday I saw in the news that they paroled Sirhan Sirhan, who is the guy that killed Bobby Kennedy. That I thought was a interesting coinky-dink that I just happened to randomly choose a speech. Because all I did was I typed in Tommy Douglas and found a bunch of Tommy Douglas speeches, and that was one that I was like, oh, okay, we can put that on. And they're talking about Bobby Kennedy the day after I found out Sirhan Sirhan got paroled. I'm kind of surprised they paroled Sirhan Sirhan because people that kill elected leaders are generally not going to have a good fair shake in the legal system. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't support the murder of elected officials. But whatever. I don't know anything about. There's a lot of people that have like strong opinions about the Kennedy family and the deaths of JFK and Bobby Kennedy as messages to John Kennedy Sr. from the mob or whatever. I don't know anything about that. I'm not going to pretend to like have a clue because I don't. But I do think it's interesting and fascinating stuff and kind of fun to, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. So what else do we want to talk about today? I already talked about that. I talked about that. We watched the video of Trump getting booed. That was fun. I did this thing. I had an idea about a tongue-in-cheek thing, reaching out to the incels. I don't think I'm gonna do it, but it was because there was recently another incel, this mass shooter Jake Davidson, was making incel videos before going on his mass shooter spree. As is so often the case, incels are garbage, and I was like, here are 5 things you can do instead of having a mass killing. I don't know that there's any value to my actually doing that, so I probably shouldn't do that. But it was funny to me for 8 minutes, so I'm not going to do that one. There was more I had. Reminder again, Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how the scheduling works out, I will be having a conversation with Taylor McNally, where we talk about the very brutal arrest of Taylor. Maybe I'll take a second right now, and there was a Facebook post that I shared that goes into some detail about that. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll pop in and look at that post. And I'm going to have to make sure that my Facebook is muted or something. I don't know. Fuck it. If embarrassing things pop up on Facebook, that'll just be life. And it won't, I'm not cool enough to have it be people are like, hey Jim, let's have the sex tonight or anything like that. That doesn't happen. Not with this face. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to. Oh, for fuck's sake! I shared a thing that Taylor sent me. I can. That's what I'll do. Sorry. I can see what I'm talking about, and you can't, and that's unfair. Unfair of me. I'm an asshole. But yeah, Taylor and I will be talking either Tuesday or Wednesday and getting her words out. She won't be able to talk about everything because that's the world we live in. Oh, perfect. This will actually work. Okay. Let me switch over to my browser view, and then we're good. All right. So this is a status that was shared, and we're trying to share sort of far and wide. Trigger warning, definitely trigger warning. This is going to be talking about some police brutality. And there's video I may or may not show depending on what chat wants to do. But yeah, so this is police corruption happening in real time. Here are the facts. On August 12th, Taylor and Jack were protesting with others for the 14th day outside of the Calgary Court Centre to demand the immediate firing of Alex Dunn, a Calgary police officer who brutally assaulted Dahlia Coffey. I did a video about the arrest a while back. I won't go into a whole bunch of details except to say that Alex Dunn is a Calgary police officer. He had arrested Dahlia Coffey for, I believe it was being out after her court-appointed curfew. Definitely not a violent altercation that required the long arm of the law. But that's what Dahlia got. Alex Dunn, while she was handcuffed, he basically slammed her face first into the floor because she wouldn't take off. She kept moving away when he tried to take off her head covering. So he slammed her face first into the ground. Dahlia would ultimately survive that, but had some brutal injuries as a result. And she she had a history of drug abuse that I don't think was made better by the loving touch of Alex Dunn. And she died of I believe, a drug overdose before his trial came up. The problem is that Alex Dunn is still a Calgary police officer. That's horrible. He received a 1-month sentence. That's the next line there. Receiving a 1-month sentence, probably not okay for what he did. So the protest is to say, you know what, fire him. He is a cop who brutally assaulted a woman in his care, a woman of color, but a woman in general, that's not okay. He gets a 1-month sentence, fucking fire him. While protesting, a group of sheriffs and one woman in plain clothes stood at the courthouse steps staring and laughing. Taylor went to film them. The woman in blue, an off-duty sheriff named Elena Cunningham, snapped and grabbed Taylor's phone before pushing Taylor. As Taylor tried to grab her phone back, the sheriff continued to push her back. A struggle ensued. The other uniformed sheriff stood by while this happened. Another protester, Jack, ran to defend Taylor, and Taylor was immediately arrested while Elena attacked Jack. Even throwing Taylor's phone at Jack, Jack now suffers from a concussion due to the force Elena used. Sheriffs then arrested Jack. Meanwhile, Elena is shown pacing in power between Taylor and Jack as they are brutally taken down. Due to a knee-neck restraint, courthouse sheriffs ripped a large chunk of hair from Taylor's head. Taylor and Jack walked away with a combined 10 charges, 7 for Taylor, 3 for Jack. Some of these charges date back to August 5th. In other instances, their group was attacked by other members of law enforcement and the public. Elena Cunningham was not even pulled away, let alone arrested or charged for her attacks against the public. She was protected by law enforcement while racialized and marginalized people were assaulted. It has been confirmed that Elena Cunningham was a Calgary police officer prior to becoming a courthouse sheriff due to previous violent misconduct. Local YYC media has been told not to amplify this story or anything related to the Done With Done YYC campaign. Local activists are being silenced in their fight for justice. We must ensure this this story is shared and that accountability is taken. Taylor and Jack do not deserve this. 100% agree that Taylor and Jack don't deserve this. 100% agree that this needs to be amplified. 100% agree that cops who basically attack defenseless people probably shouldn't be fucking cops anymore. These are not hot takes. These are like super tepid, lukewarm fucking takes. And I don't understand when you have, I'm getting all riled up, when you have people who are out there saying police should probably stop beating up people, and the response is for the police to beat up people, I think it highlights that there might be a problem. Maybe that's just me. So let's see the videos. I don't know if this is going to work or not. We'll find out. That's a very strange screen view. Do I have the ability to okay, I'm gonna, how the fuck am I gonna make that work on the screen? Okay, well, I probably am not able to effectively do that right this second. That's like massive. I don't understand why I can't control the size of it. Not gonna report the video. Not what I was trying to. No, fuck off. Okay, well, we won't watch the videos because they're not 100% necessary to get the full gist of the situation. But suffice to say, I watched the videos in the previous, or I watched some videos in the previous thing, and it shows the very, very forceful takedown of Taylor by the police. It shows the very, very forceful attack on Jack by this female sheriff person, Elena Cunningham, and it shows a whole lot of really shitty behavior by law enforcement. And then as they're trying to got their phones out and they're documenting it, whoever it was that was doing so, the cops are trying to block their view. The cops are trying to imply that they don't have the right to film, all of the things that cops do when they know they're doing the bad thing. And again, this goes back to that whole, but there's good cops. Fuck that. Either there were no good cops present or the good cops don't fucking care. When I don't care. If you are a police officer and off duty or otherwise, and someone gets you so mad that you feel the need to start face punching, then you're not a good police officer. That's just fucking facts. That's, as a bouncer, I didn't punch people unless I absolutely had to. And guess what? In the entire time I was a bouncer, I never once absolutely had to. So I never once hit anyone. That's a thing. As a cop, I should be held to an even higher fucking standard. And you can be like, but the stresses of the job and all. This chick was coming back from her fucking lunchtime Pilates class. If I understand the story correctly, she was out for lunch, came back, they're all sitting there scowling at the goddamn Antifers, trying to make it so that we look like the villains in this situation where we're the actual fucking villains. And then just got so mad that she started swinging. Even if, let's pretend for a minute that Taylor and Jack started this. As a very trained police officer, you should be able to go, hey, I'm going to non-violently solve this. I'm going to either remove myself from the situation, or I'm going to take the least amount of physical effort necessary to stop things. You're also surrounded by other cops who could have also been involved. But instead, you took the time to do a whooping. And when you do a whooping, you're in the wrong. You fucking idiot. So yeah, protest police violence, receive police violence. So Taylor will be here Tuesday or Wednesday to talk about what she can talk about with regards to this. I don't know where those lines are, but I know that because there is an ongoing series of criminal charges against her, she's not able to sort of talk all the way freely. But I wanted to make sure that she had a platform to get her voice out. And Taylor is awesome. She is a good friend. And I genuinely hope that people will tune in and hear what she has to say, because she kicks ass. The other thing I want to mention, of course, is that I will be doing karaoke at the end of the stream, which is probably coming sooner than later. It's been a couple of hours, and I'm probably close to the point. I will probably sing 2 songs. I normally have the humiliation ticker. Ultimately, I'm going to humiliate myself no matter what. So I didn't receive any tips, which is 100% fine. No one needs to give me money ever. But I'll probably do the good and bad karaoke just for fun. And so that means that I will be delighting the audience with Let's Lynch the Landlord by the Dead Kennedys. And I would do Anything for Love, but I won't do that by Meatloaf. Because why not? Why not? I like a little self-destruction. Yeah. So we did some chatting about Trump. And the sort of chimera that he invented with the populist bullshit that he's been spraying, now biting him in the butt and booing him when he's like, I got the vax, you should get the vax. I got the vax. I got the double vax. I will get the triple vax if that's a requirement in future. I did that because that's smart. I don't want to get COVID. Even if I had no real bad reactions to COVID. I don't want it. It sounds shitty. So that's a thing. Things that are shitty aren't worth doing. So don't do them. Get the vax. People that are anti-vax, maybe learn how to think and do research on your own. And figure out what makes good information and what makes bad information, because that's kind of an important skill you should have learned in like high school at the latest. But here we are. So yeah, fuck that. I love the people are like, finally it's FDA approved. Finally, that means that the right wing will just stop putting up an argument. No, that whole FDA approval argument was bullshit. It's not even FDA approved. Okay, well, if it was FDA approved, would you take it? No. So you're basically saying you want big government to step in and make sure that it knows you're safe? No. Then don't fucking say stupid shit. Yeah, if you're watching and you're enjoying, please consider giving a follow. I am what you call a small streaming Andy. I have a total base of like 6. I'm kidding, but not all the way kidding. There's some truth to that. Not BS. People went and got it the next day. That's probably there probably are. I'm being facetious when I say that the FDA approval didn't matter. I know that there were people who legitimately wanted to see that. You are correct, Jay. But I also know that when you watch the debates on Twitch, for example, you've got the right-wingers who are like, well, it's not even FDA approved. That's just a talking point. That's literally, if it was FDA approved, it would change nothing in their lives. They simply are using that as an example of why they don't want to do it. And I get it, and it's whatever. But suffice to say, yes, you are correct. There were people who when the FDA approval came in, that they were like, okay, you know what, now I feel okay getting this, and I shouldn't be a dick to those people because, yeah, being a dick isn't helping anybody. But I will be a dick to those who are the right-wing conservative debate bros who are like, nah, fuck that, I wouldn't get it because it's not FDA approved. Kids FDA approved. I'm not not gonna get it. That's just an empty talking point, and I'll be a dick about those all day and all night. Yeah, so we talked about that. That was fun. We talked about the whole eviction crisis and the eviction moratorium. We looked through the Green Party stuff in Canada in the upcoming election. We talked about the silliness of that election and how this is just literally a power grab by Justin Trudeau to try and avoid having to work with the NDP anymore. And I hope that it blows up in his face. We talked about OnlyFans and sex work and all that kind of stuff. And again, I will reiterate my stance that sex work is real work. Sex work from home is real work from home. And who fucking cares? We have to get over our puritanical bullshit in that regard, because I don't care if somebody has sex. I don't care if they have sex for money. I don't see why that's a thing that we would ever be upset about. The only other thing I really sort of prepared to talk about for today was Afghanistan, but not like, I don't want to go into sort of a deep dive into what's going on in Afghanistan or anything like that. I will just say this. Afghanistan is a mess, and it's a mess because we fucked up. We being like the Western world, which is mostly America, fucked up when we decided we would invade a country to find Osama bin Laden or whatever our actual motivations are. I'm sure the word mining has a lot more to do with it than Biden, or sorry, I said Osama bin Biden, than bin Laden. But going in there, we didn't have a clear game plan. We didn't have a clear, not just exit strategy, but path to an exit strategy. And we just went in and had a forever war, and those are probably never a good idea. Devil Dag, you had a couple hate raid bots in your viewers, I do believe. Oh, I probably do. Yeah, hate raid. I guess I'm somebody now. I got new followers. The hate. Did anyone, was there like things that were said? Because I didn't see anything come up. I'm assuming that Nightbot probably stopped it from happening, or Twitch moderation in general stopped it from happening automatically. That whole hate raid thing is fucking weird to me. Like, who spends their time like that? No, not said, but they are on a list of warnings. Weird. What do I see on my Twitch? One sec. Let's just take a look. If I look at the moderation thing, live notifications. I don't see. I just switched to Chatterino, and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, so that's probably a thing also. Had a couple follow me. I had like fun hate rating me when I only stream once every 3 months. Yeah, that'll be really efficient. And it's great that they're hate rating someone like me who literally has like no voice, and I'm a white heterosexual middle class Gen X man. Like, wow, there's gonna be all kinds of hate you can spray my way. Like, oh, how dare you be pretty much exactly the same as every other person in the world that is, in a position that you're in. Like, literally, what can be said about me? I got bad hair. I'm a honky. Okay, I'll probably still sleep tonight. I could stand to lose a few pounds. Some of my takes are probably not properly thought out. There. I'm my own hate bot. I'm doing it. And I'm a small stream Andy, so that means that I got nothing. I don't know why anyone would bother picking on me. I get why shitty people feel the need to like create hate bots to raid people of color or trans people or whatever. I watched that happen. I was on Riverboat Jack's Twitch stream one night, and yeah, no, I appreciate the warning. Thank you, Is it Deviled Egg or Deviled Eggy 08? Okay, my old man eyes. I was like, it looks like words to me, Martha. Martha, bring me my glasses. But yeah, like I was on Riverboat Jack's channel. Riverboat Jack is a trans woman who is a phenomenal Twitch streamer. I really enjoy all of that. Or just Sarah. Yeah, whatever works. But yeah, and hate. It was the first time I'd ever heard of this hate bot thing, and literally 1,000 follows popped up, and I think she was doing a. I don't remember what it might have been. Dungeons and Dragons or no, she was doing a deep dive into something, and she just turned off follower notifications. Interestingly, the only follower I got it was Che. So that brings me up to, I think, 6. No, I'm just kidding. It's more than that. But I don't have a huge base. The whole hate thing, like, there's got to be better things we can do. I know eventually conservative Alberta is going to see one of my videos and be like, God damn it, that boy there, he's a communist and we need to go and burn his house down. But hey, it's not my house. I just rent it. I don't want people to burn my house down. But really, you know, I live in a neighborhood right across from a trade school. I have a Black Lives Matter and an Indigenous Lives Matter sign in my window. I'm not scared of fucking Hicks, so bring it on, fuckers. Kayaktis Che gives me the hard eyes. Oh, I love you, Che. I genuinely do miss you, my friend. And I miss Kayaktis. I don't believe Kayaktis is still happening. I could be wrong about that. But do you have any projects that are on the go right now, Che? He said, hoping. For those millions of fans that are watching right now, Che is a local Calgary musician who is just phenomenal. We're trying. I'm glad to hear that. Kayaktis is a fantastic band, and so much so that my old band, the Keith Morrison Band, was a acoustic rock and roll band, and Kayaktis is like death metal. Probably not death metal. Metal I don't fucking like the rules of metal are escaping me, but badass metal band. And we were like trying to cover one of their songs because it was just fun. It was, I think, Not Deceive the Deceiver. I don't remember. Anyways, listen to Kayaktis because they're fucking rad. And everyone that follows me is fucking rad. So if you want to be rad, click the follow button. All right. New Kayaktis recording is starting. Got to grab a vocal mic from Nate today. Oh, right on, man. That makes me super happy. I haven't had a chance to listen to the new His Last Words, which came out last night, but I got this. It's the card with the download code, so I'm going to be listening to that today. And the thing I'm most stoked about right now is all of the new music that is about to come out from people who've been working through COVID. That includes my bands. That includes new Kayaktis, new His Last Words. New song is called It Is My Time. Yeah, brother. It is your time, Jay. Speaking of time, I think it's time for me to do some karaoke. So that will be a thing. So Let's Lynch the Landlord for sure is going to be... Let's just say it's going to be awkward because I don't all the way know the rhythm of one of the parts of the song, but it'll work out. And then I would do Anything for Love, but I won't do that. Will be awkward just because it's fucking Meatloaf. That's awkward. So this is all about me humiliating myself for fun. So here we go. I just need to switch my view over to the weekly humiliations view. And fade. And now you'll be able to read along. Read along with all the words coming out of my face parts. All right. Press and play.
The landlord's here to visit the blasting disco down below. Says I'm doubling the rent cause the building's condemned. You're gonna help me buy City Hall. But we can, you know we can. But we can, you know we can. Let's lynch the landlord man. I tell him turn on the water. I tell him turn on the heat. Tells me all you ever do is complain. Yeah, that they search the place when I'm not here. Fuck, that's the part. We can, you know we can. But we can, you know we can. Let's lynch a landlord, let's lynch a landlord, let's lynch a landlord, man. 30 seconds of instrumental awesomeness, alright. It's like a surf song. I don't know why I do this to myself, but I do. There's rats chewing up the kitchen, roaches up to my knees. Turn the oven on, it smells like garbage. Yeah, till the rain pours through the ceiling. But we can, you know we can. But we can, you know we can. Let's lynch a landlord, let's lynch a landlord, let's lynch a landlord, man. The landlord man. I had to change one of those lyrics because I get that punk rock used to be edgy AF, but no one needs to say it smells like Dachau and feel good about that. So that's gross and awful. All right, next song. Why am I scrolling for details? That's not what I want. There we go. Here we go. Okay, this will be beautiful. And I would do anything for love. I'd run right into hell and back. I would do anything for love. I never lie to you, and that's a fact. I'm trying to get sweaty. And I'll never forget the way you feel right now. No way. That's too high for me. Do anything for love, but I won't do that. Oh no, I won't do that. It just picks right up, man. This is my jam. But some days it don't come easy, and some days it don't come hard. Some days it don't come at all, and these are the days that never end. Some nights you're breathing fire, and some nights you're talking nice. Some nights you're like nothing I've ever seen before or will again. And maybe I'm crazy, oh it's crazy and it's true. I know you can save me, no one else can save me now but you. As long as the planet's turning, as long as the stars are burning, as long as your dreams are coming true, you better believe it. And I would do anything for love. Oh, I would do anything for love. I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. No, I won't do that. Do anything for love, anything you've been dreaming of, but I just won't do that. I would do anything for love, anything you've been dreaming of, but I just won't do. Some days I pray for silence, and some days I pray for soul. Some days I just pray to the God of sex and drugs and rock and roll. And maybe I'm lonely, I'll fall apart if I had to be. There's just one and only one promise I can keep. As long as the wheels are turning, as long as the fires are burning, As long as your dreams are coming true, you better believe it that I would do anything for love. And you know it's true and that's a fact. Motherfucker, I would do anything for love. There'll never be no turning back. But I'll never do it better than I do it with you. So long, would do anything for love. Oh, I would do anything for love. I would do anything for love. But I won't do that. No, I won't do. Will you raise me? Oh, fuck, this is the other part. Help me down. Will you get me right out of this godforsaken town? Will you make me it all new? That's all. I can do that. Oh, no, I can do. Will you cater to every fantasy I got? Will you hose me down with holy water? If I get too hot, will you take me places I'll never go? No, I can't do that. No, I can't do. I know the territory I've been around. It'll all turn to dust and we'll all fall down. And sooner or later, you'll be screwing around. I won't do that, baby. No, I won't do anything for love. But I won't do I think my favorite part of that is right near the end. Let's see if I can find the exact. It literally goes like, I won't do that. No, I won't do anything for love. That's just lazy meatloaf. You're a lazy loaf. You loafer. All right, that was that. That was that. That was my humiliating myself. I hope you enjoyed it, you sick bastards. And that probably means we're at the time where I'm going to stop the streaming parts. Taking a look, I see there's a few new faces in there, a few old faces, probably some hate bot spam still lurking around. But either way, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. I will absolutely have a great rest of my day. I plan on enjoying the little bit of sunshine that we have. And always hate landlords. All right. Thank you guys very much. Have a good day.